Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Agar IO. And on this episode, we are doing our viewer day. This is going to be the second episode in the series for this week. And hopefully by next week, we will have the new computer up and running and we'll be able to do it live. So if you guys are looking forward to that, make sure to come out and join us. I think it's going to be freaking awesome to be able to sit there and be able to read your comments as I play the game and yeah, I'm pretty sure we're gonna hear people like you suck because I definitely do at this game. I am really good at some games and not so good at other ones, and for some reason I do not know why this game just eludes me. What it is for me, anyways, and you guys may not have this issue, is every time I come back to this game after being gone for like a week. Man, I had to start like all over. Normally, I don't have to do that with like EverQuest. I can pick that back up after being gone for a week. I fall right back into it really easily. And this game, not so much. I make the same mistakes and then remember, oh yeah, this is why I don't do that. And then go a little bit further and get a little bit better, and then be like, oh yeah, now I remember why I didn't do that. And I just keep dying over and over again. So yeah, it's kind of weird, but I do like it. It is very addicting, almost in a relaxing sort of way. Like you're, dude, come on, man. Can't you see that I suck? Like you can leave me alone for a little while. Let me sit in the corner and have fun eating a couple of little things, right? I mean, I'm not asking to be number one. In fact, I've never made it to number one. I made it to number two a couple of times, and I've been on the leaderboard a few times as well. So I'm not without my good moments, but mainly usually pretty low. Like I don't usually get bigger than that CIA guy that just kind of passed by before something bad happens to me. And the longer I'm on the game, the better I get. But at the same time, the bigger the mobs usually get, because you got to remember that the people here aren't going anywhere. Like they've been playing for a couple hours, maybe even longer. Maybe they were here before you even got here. And when you get really big, it takes quite a bit for somebody to knock you off. Like that's not an easy thing for somebody to do. Oh man, I ate that guy just in time for that other guy not to eat me. If it had been just a split second longer, I would not have survived that. He would have definitely got me on that one. So I gotta remember to do like a Serpico, kind of zigzag back and forth a little bit more, but it really slows you down, and the mobs seem to catch up with you even easier. But yeah, I don't know what to do on that one where, the guys are just so much better at aiming, and they know their exact limit. I don't know if they zoom out and zoom in and find out what the edge of their screen should be, or they know how many spaces, or it's just something that's come naturally over time. But some people on here are really, really good, including Matthew, which, they're supposed to be on here somewhere. I don't know. I went and checked in between this episode and the next, or last episode and this one, I should say, and there's no messages, so I'm guessing they are on. We just have not seen them yet. Sometimes it can take a while. Like I've said on previous episodes, when me and Hydros are here, it can take a while, even with us communicating where we are, to find the other person. And I think in the past we've had really, really good luck with Matthew. I don't know if he just instinctively knows where to go. Like he just knows, like if you hang out in the center, pretty much everybody's going to pass by you at some point. Not really the case for me. I usually do not go down towards the center. I stay on the edges. But that can be very dangerous as well, because if you stay on the edges, you could get trapped. And the big guys love to hang around the edges. So usually what I try to do is I try to stay on the opposite side of where the big guys are, because they always seem to move in packs. And once you find one, you find like 15 other guys all around them. You can kind of see them moving like what they are right there on the right hand side. So if I can cut down to the left bottom, oh no, see, look, there's even bigger guys over here. So yeah, they just move together, and it becomes this huge mass of dodging bigger guys for somewhat smaller guys, but still able to eat you like 15 times over. See, now I'm finally getting away from them. People were a little bit smaller down here, so yeah, it's almost as if there's a current to this game, and people kind of move together and flow together. And I would love to see like the coding that shows where everybody went and the path they took when they were taking it, and see how they overlap. And like, is there any pattern to it? Does people in general, do our brains work close enough together that we actually, without knowing it, tend to all move in the same pattern? Is it country wise? Is it because we drive on the right hand side of the road over here, but in England and I believe Australia, you guys drive on the left hand side. And I don't know if there's any other countries that do that as well, versus right versus left. I'm sure there are plenty of them out there, but it's weird how two different cultures can do the same technology and then develop rules for it in the exact opposite way. Because we're both people, so obviously there's not one that people look at and be like, oh, okay, dang it, I should have turned around a little sooner. They're not instinctively drawn towards left or right, because people are okay with both of them. And people who have grown up with it don't sit there and think, oh man, I wish it was the other way around. At least nobody's ever told me that over here, where they're like, I wish we drove on the left hand side of the road. Like nobody, you grew up with it. It's just the way it always was, and so you're used to it and you're fine with it. And yet, I believe the exact same thing is true in countries that drive on the left. Like it's just what you grew up with, you're perfectly fine with it. It's only when you have to change and like go from one to the other that you can run into issues. I know I've never been to England, but my sister has, and she drove while she was over there, and she said it was just nerve-wracking because you're just normally it's all after a certain point it's just autopilot. You check your mirrors, you're doing a dozen things that you're not even realizing you're doing because you've been doing them for so long. And then when you change things up, you actually have to concentrate again, and it feels like, at least the way she described it, like you're back in, freaking driver's ed, and you're sitting there like learning the rules all over again. You're checking your mirrors, and and it's just like it was kind of funny to hear her talk about it because clearly it wasn't something that came naturally to her. And yet she was still able to do it. And she said towards the end of the trip, it was a little bit easier, but there'd be times where she would catch herself making a turn and going like on the other side. And she's like, oh, yeah, you got to watch that, especially when there's nobody out there. And I actually know what that feels like because I hate going downtown. I don't know how you guys have your downtowns. Over here where we live, it's pretty big. Houston, it's a pretty big downtown. And not all the roads are like this, but a lot of them are one-way streets. And it sucks so bad when you're not familiar with the area and you're going down there late at night, or you have to pass through it late at night, and there's no cars on any of the streets, and the signs are so poorly, labeled and don't have the proper signs in the right area because everything's close together and it's all clumped on the sidewalk, and you can't tell because the sign is turned just at the right angle. That is it for the street that I'm on, or the street to my left, or to my right? It's like, who is that pointing towards? Right? Is that me? Am I stopping at the stop sign, or is that the other guys? It's just ridiculous. So there had been plenty of times where I got lost downtown because it's just, I hate downtown. I absolutely hate that guy. I hate being downtown. If you guys don't get it already, oh my God, so bad, so bad. I can think of a dozen memories of being lost downtown when I was younger, and this was before GPS, before cell phones, really. And it may sound really old, but cell phones have not been around in the sense that you guys are used to it now for a long time. Like there's just been a few years that they've been so freaking smart that you can integrate, like GPS and stuff into them. So it's kind of a new thing. And for me, I had the red orange book. I don't know if very many of you guys remember this, but it's a book that you could buy locally wherever you lived, and it would have all the maps of every street and every road for like 100 miles or something like that. I forgot what the range is, but like if you lived in the area, it had everything you needed. You weren't really ever going to travel off of that map unless you were traveling across country. So it was a pretty big area, whatever it was, but you had to look into it like an old-fashioned library where you had to go in there and be like, okay, I'm looking for Baker Street, and you had to go to the front, look at the index, okay, where's the B's, where's the streets, and figure all that out, and then find the maps, because they were just page after page, a page of maps. And some of them were, like I said, zoomed out a little bit further so you can see the city. Some of them were zoomed in more so you can see the streets. And then you could see like the cul-de-sacs and stuff like that. And they would change it every year, and you'd have to buy a new copy if you wanted it like up to date. Nowadays, your little GPS app will update, 5, 10, 15 times a day if it wants to. Back then, you got one update a year. and it cost you another 25-30 bucks for it. But yeah, when you got lost downtown, you had to find a safe place to pull over. Good luck on that one, guys. And because especially if you're late at night, whole place is not a good place to be. Very creepy, and for good reason, because it's very, very dangerous down there. I don't know what it is about downtowns, and it's not just the one here. I've seen it pretty much every downtown I've ever been to in other states as well. They're usually surrounded by slums, and I can kind of get it, because who wants to live next to downtown? Like, traffic has to be miserable. Like, every time I've ever had to go down there, traffic is just bumper to bumper all day long, except until you get to the nighttime. So yeah, I would not want to live there for that reason. I know some people don't have a choice, like they need to live next to their job, or price range kind of things come into play. But for me, I love the country. I love living out in nature. I love waking up and seeing nothing but trees as far as I can see, and no concrete. There's people out there like my brother-in-law who lived in New York, and he absolutely loves it. And I have no problem with that. Like, to each their own. And he'll talk about New York, and I'm like, a lot of the stuff he talks about is very, very cool. But even with that said, it's just not for me. So, when I talk about this stuff, I'm not putting any of those other ways of living down. It's just for me, when I'm down there, and it's just all concrete, and the houses are just falling apart, and you can see people like being mugged on the street. And yeah, it's like straight out of a horror movie and stuff. So not a good place to stop and pull out that little reddish orange book and look at where you're at, because that's like painting a sign on your back saying, come rob this guy. He has no clue where he's at, so he can't run away from you. And even if he did get away, he had no clue which direction to go in to find the police or anything along those lines. So yeah, just not very good. Like, it's not like a GPS. You can just be like, get me out of here, and then you're out of here. It doesn't work that way. So I used to get lost down there all the time, and so yeah, I have very fond memories of staying as far away from downtown as possible, no matter what city that I'm in. But yeah, there's just different technology out now. I wish that they had GPS when I was younger, because I actually memorize any path that I go more than once, but the very first time I'm going somewhere, I'll get so lost. And I used to actually have a rule when I was driving around when I was 17, 18, that I would never go to a new location unless I had a full tank of gas and $20 on me, because that is how lost I would get. I would drive around for 18, 20 hours trying to find my way back. There's one time I went to see a movie theater, see a movie at a movie theater, I should say, with a friend of mine, and it was called The Fountains. And we went down there to go watch the movie, and I don't even remember what we watched. I don't remember it being bad, but I don't remember it being memorable either. So when we get done, you're supposed to come out of the parking lot. It's the very first time I had ever been to this movie theater, and it's in a part of town that I had never been to either before, because they had just opened up the movie theater, and they were playing midnight showings. And midnight showings were somewhat new. They actually started doing those towards the end of me working there at the theater in my teenage years, so it wasn't a common occurrence all that often. And the theater I was working at the time didn't do them, and the theater across the street didn't do them. There's actually only like 2 theaters in the entire city that considered doing them, and they didn't do them all the time. They only did them for certain features, and even then, only for like the first day that it was out. So whatever we were going to see had just come out, and it was supposed to be something big, and we went to go watch it. And instead of taking a left out of the parking lot, I took a right by mistake, and I ended up in like another county. Over here, the signs actually change color. Like if you're inside the city of Houston, they're green. If you go out a little further, they may be a different color. When I noticed them starting to turn brown, I'm like, yeah, and then the road turned dirt. I'm like, holy crap, guys! Like, which direction should we have gone? Because they had no clue either. So I didn't feel so bad that I got lost. They had no freaking clue where we were, and they're the ones with the directions. Like, they're the ones who told me how to get to that place, because they said they had been there before, and they were the ones who told me to take the right instead of the left, or whatever it was. Is he just teasing me, the 9gag guy? I don't know. I don't, and we still haven't seen Matthew yet, so maybe they weren't able to get on. We'll have to find out for them sometime next week when we upload these videos to find out, what happened with them. But Yeah, I used to get lost all the time, so I'm very, very addicted to my GPS now in the sense of going someplace new, but I don't really go new places all that often. I've lived in Houston long enough that I pretty much know where everything is. Now, they're always doing construction, so it's nice to be able to get updates on my phone without having to listen through all of the nonsense that they usually talk about. Like when I turn the radio on in my car and I'm trying to get a report for what the traffic is. I just want to hear the traffic. Like, I don't mind turning it on and listening to people talk about subjects when I'm not in a rush. But if I want to find out what the traffic is, I don't want to wait like 10, 15 minutes through all of their conversation, because in the back of my mind, it's going to be, can you please get to the subject that I want to hear, rather than what are you talking about that I find interesting? Because I'm not going to find it interesting at that moment. Once I find out what the traffic is and I can make a judgment call on where to go and what path to take, well, then I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say. So, yeah, I definitely enjoy that aspect with the GPS, that I could just get up to date, information. And there was one app that I was using for quite a long time called Waze, Waze, and the longer you use the program, the more it learned the paths that you like to take. It learned from other people who are using the program how fast a certain road was. Like, it's measuring how fast you're going, so it can track where you're at and give you up-to-date information on the route you're taking, which some people I'm sure find creepy. And before I started doing the YouTube videos, I was very private about all my information. I didn't want people knowing where I was going and stuff like that. But when you put yourself out here, kind of like I do, you kind of have to give that up, because you just it's not realistic. Like, you're talking on here all the time, people are going to find out things about you. So I kind of gave that up. But now when I use that program, it measures how fast you're going. It also measures how fast everybody else is going, and it will let you know that, oh, there's traffic here because the road is measured for 45 miles an hour, and they're only going like 15, and they've been sitting there for 45 minutes, going up a little bit and stopping. So it figures that stuff out. It's really, really crappy when you first get the program. It doesn't work nearly as well as some of the other GPSs that I've used, the little apps. But after you used it for a while, it really starts to become pretty good. And it's like it has this rating system where you have to build up. You can report accidents. You can take pictures of them, and people going by can look at the picture and see what it is. So it's kind of cool. And people would report where like the cops are, and you'd be able to see like there's a cop car there. And it's funny because I think I heard recently they added the feature so that you can put a moving cop car on the, like, you used to have to just put it down. Oh, I saw him on the corner of this one. Now you can say, oh, he's riding alongside me or something. So people will know where that is. And I think cops are going to end up becoming, at least the ones on the street, are going to become kind of obsolete, because these apps are getting so good, so sophisticated, that there will be a day where the app itself, because there's cameras out there that I heard about that will look at the license plate for everybody you drive by and automatically scan it for the bounty hunters and see if you're wanted for something, and then they either report it to the police or they pull you over, under the guise that they're a cop, just because they shot a badge. And then when you find out they're bounty hunters, it's too late because they've already handcuffed you, because you're just you were stupid and you believed that they were cops. So, and you didn't resist, because as far as I know, bounty hunters have no legal right to ever restrain anybody. Well, they do, but they don't. Like, if you resist, you're not resisting arrest. You're just resisting some punk who's putting handcuffs on you. So you're perfectly fine doing that, as far as I know. But don't hold me to that, guys. But yeah, they have that program. So I would not put it past somebody to create an app eventually that you could put on your dashboard, because there's plenty of little things that you can put your cell phone on your dashboard to watch your movies or listen to live updates on the traffic or whatever the case is. And the cameras all have, or not the cameras, but the phones all have cameras on both sides. So I think there would be a very, very easy way for them to figure out how to make it scan everything within the eyesight of that thing, the lens or whatever, and see if there's a cop car, see if there's any accidents, and auto-update that. So there will become a point where everybody knows exactly where every cop is and where they're going and what direction and what speed they're going at. And, you're going to be able to catch them on camera breaking all sorts of laws. I live over here in Houston. I see cops speeding all the time when they have no place to go. There was one that I remember when I was about 8 or 9, and we're sitting at a light, and this light was taking forever, and it was hot. We didn't have AC in the car, and it's Houston, so we're talking like 98, 99, 100-degree weather with always 100% humidity. So you're just sitting in the back seat, just melting, and you don't have any of that wind going because you're not moving, and you're just sitting at this light, and it's so hot. And then a cop car comes speeding from behind, and everybody has to actually move out of the lanes that they're in and almost hit each other to make room for this guy. And it's like, hey, he's going to save somebody's life. He's going to help somebody. It's important. You got to get out of the way, right? It's your responsibility. At least that's what I thought at the time. And then immediately after he passed us, because we were the very first ones on the light, immediately after passing us, he crosses the street and takes a right into the gas station, turns his lights off, gets out, and starts getting gas. And at my age, I was just flabbergasted. I was like, Dad, what's he doing? And my dad, he had to somehow explain to a little kid that, yeah, he just abused his power right there, so he could get past all this traffic, so he could go get gas. And you could tell he's not in a rush because he's just sitting there, talking on his cell phone and getting gas, and he's not rushing around. Like if he was ready, running out of gas and he needed to get in there and get to a crime scene, that would be one thing. But he wasn't doing that. He was just getting gas, and I think he even went in while we were waiting. So it's like it was just ridiculous. So I think those apps are really gonna do something to that kind of stuff because you're gonna be able to catch them on camera, and then send that in. I don't know if you can send that into like internal affairs or whatever the case is, but people are always doing things they're not supposed to. So it's going to work in both ways, not just against cops, but against people too. Like we have the red light cameras everywhere down here, but the people hate them. And they actually voted a while back to take them all down. Like we did not want them after the city had put them up. And the city basically said, well, we won't give you tickets with the red light cameras, but we can't take them down because we signed a contract with blah, 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 and we have to leave them up for at least 11 years. Otherwise, we suffer this giant penalty and have to pay them all this money. That, to me, just rings like they're just trying to keep them up for whatever security reasons, like the NSA or whatever, because it's just bogus. Like, if the people decide they don't want them, and you're not going to charge people, because that's how you're going to make your revenue by, doing the tickets, you're not going to charge people on that one. It just seems a little weird that you're going to be like, yeah, we're going to keep paying the upkeep and keep them up on the stuff. So, yeah, I'm not really buying that one too much, but they're still there, but they don't give tickets out. So, it's going to work both ways for people. Eventually, those are going to become everywhere, and the cops are going to be seeing everything you're doing at all times. It's almost like the police state that they talked about in the old days. And I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. I think we'll just have to wait and see which direction that goes. And I know there's people on both sides of the aisle that are for technology and people who are kind of fearful of where it's going and stuff. But I'm more open. I try to see both sides to every argument and keep my mind open to new possibilities, because I have been just utterly amazed at where we have gone with everything in life, whether it's medical or technology or comedy and movies and video games. I mean, every time you think something, it just alters your perception of things if you give it a couple more years. There's in fact, I'll get onto this on the next episode because I don't want to make these too long. But again, guys, I want to thank you all for coming out. If you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe. Definitely helps grow the channel, guys, and I greatly appreciate it. I also want to make sure you all feel comfortable leaving comments down below, because it's really nice to hear what you guys think of this game and your experiences with the game. And there's just the stuff that I talk about, because it has been a while since I've done any of these videos solo. So it's kind of nice to get back into it. A lot of the time I'm having to bite my tongue back to let other people talk, because I don't know, I talk a lot. So it's definitely something I have to rein in at times. But again, guys, I want to thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all next time.